Hello, brothers and sisters. I wanted to share this with you. Do you ever have those times when, I don't know, but it seems like just being someone that belongs to Christ and that walks with Him and talks with Him and communes with Him constantly, it's like my brain is continuously relating things of eternal significance to my everyday life. It's how I operate, because that's how it is when you walk by the Spirit versus walking by the flesh. You think of the things of God and of things above. And so when that happens, do you ever have those times when you're thinking of something really, really simple? When you consider what it is, it's actually a really simple thing, but have you ever just thought of it on like a super deep level? Because that's what's been going on with me, and I can't even tell you why it's this specific topic, but I just been thinking a lot about it. And for me, that topic is life. Just life. This life that we're living right now, that we're on the way to proofing and being with the Lord, just this life. And the fact that we were given it, the fact that it can be used for so much, and that it's so significant that even throughout all of eternity, where the word says that He'll wipe every tear. So I do believe that when we get to heaven, there are certain things that He may very well remove from our memory, but the things that we did with the kingdom in mind, the things that we did in obedience, those things will have eternal significance well after this body that you see right here is gone and the body that you're watching this video with is gone. This life has that kind of significance. And so I just been thinking a lot about life. And I'm like, okay, yeah, life is a thing. We exist. We're alive. I get it. It's like, that's how I look at it from just the simple perspective. But just to be honest with you, and many of you probably relate anyway, when I see how dark this world is, I've had my moments where I've legit thought, like, Lord, Lord forgive me, but I have legit thought, like, God, what is my significance of even being here? Like, no matter what I say to these people, they just don't care. They're so satisfied with just the darkness of this world. They are so comfortable with just making their bed in the world and just lying in it and just whatever, life is good, right? And I'm just like, Lord, okay. And as we're waiting for the rapture to be gone, it's just like, okay, for what purpose am I still here? No one cares what I have to say. It's like, Lord, no one cares. Not no one, but it's like, Lord, very few people care about what you have to say to this generation. These people, they are dying, they're perishing, and they don't, it's like they're zombies or something. So yeah, sorry. If I might get emotional in this video. It just might happen. I'm actually a crybaby. I'm a crybaby in the Lord, but I usually don't cry in my videos. Anyway, I might cry a lot. Just excuse me. But I'm just like, Lord, like, what impact am I making? And that is the thing that I've been thinking about, and that's why I've just been pondering the life. And maybe that's why it could be that this is His response to me. That don't you dare underestimate this life. And the fact that you're here. And the fact that you have impact. Whether you see the impact that you have or not, whether someone physically comes up to you and says, oh my gosh, like, my life has been changed because I heard something you said, or, my life has been changed, thank you so much for speaking with me, or whatever. Whether or not someone approaches you and says that, whether or not you have proof that you're making a difference, don't assume that your place here is unnecessary, and don't assume that nothing that you do reaches people. And I think I've seen proof of that myself, where it's like I'll say something to someone, and like in that time they might like not show any interest, or perhaps I said many things to them and they just weren't paying attention because they didn't want to hear it. You know how people are in the world, things of spiritual nature, especially when it comes to God. People who are in the world, they don't want to hear that because it makes them have to come to terms with the fact that God is over here and they're over there, and they don't really want that to get pointed out. But yeah, I've seen those same people come back to me and just like speak to me openly about things that are somewhat of the nature of what I was telling them. And I'm like, so that was sinking in. It's like even if they weren't wanting to hear what I had to say, they were still listening, and it still had some kind of impact. And it could have been God's way also of just showing me that, first of all, we don't need to be in control of every single thing, and God's the one who makes the seeds grow. Our job is to, whatever He tells us to do in whatever given situation, is to plant that seed in obedience, in obeying whatever He tells us to do according to whatever the situation is. That is us planting the seed, and then God waters that seed. And that's another thing. I thought about how important free will is, and I mean, just that in itself kind of blew my mind. And just the fact that even as we pray for people, like, don't get me wrong, God hears our prayers, but ultimately that person has to choose God. And so at some point, it's like you can ask God to give them this, ask God to give them that, and He will, but they still have to choose. And so that's another thing, just being able to witness that maybe I will do everything that He tells me to do, and maybe I won't see the fruit of that. Maybe not in this flesh, maybe into eternity perhaps. Like if I go up and then fast forward to after everyone goes ultimately where they're supposed to go, and then I might see that same person come up to me in heaven like, oh my goodness, I remember you talked to me about this and that. Like we might not see the fruit of what we do here manifest until we're long gone. I mean, that just might be how it is, but by no means should that stop us from living with purpose, and by no means should that make us shrink back and just and think, oh, like my place here is pointless. And I know a lot of you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And so yeah, that's what I've been thinking about, is this life and the impact of this life. I've just been thinking, not necessarily in anger, not even necessarily in frustration, but I've just been thinking about sorry guys, just a moment. Okay, hi again. So I've just been thinking, what is a life worth? And that has been my question. For whatever reason, the same exact question is just lingering in my mind. I'm just going through my day, just living life, and I keep thinking, like, what is a life worth? What can you do with it? Like, how can you make it mean something? Obviously, the best way you can do that is to submit yourself to God and become a willing vessel, and then just watch what God does with that life. And like I said, you might not see the manifestation of what that brings forth while you're in the flesh, but I mean, just obedience and faith, that's where that comes in. It's just believing that, okay, God, you told me to do this, and you're the one who has all wisdom, so obviously you had a purpose in telling me to do this, or giving me the impression to do this, so I'm just going to obey. And whether I see something manifest or not, then okay, because I trust you, God, this is my faith, and this is my obedience, and I know that He'll bring forth a crop out of that, And so, just thinking on, just the fact that we are alive in itself is kind of a wonder. Do you ever just I'm sorry, this is weird, but sorry, pardon me for being weird for a moment, but do you ever just sit there and think, wow, I actually exist, I'm alive, and like I'm aware that I exist and that I'm alive. And so yeah, I know that sounds funny, but I say that because like I've considered that for at least a second before, and it just made me feel like it was really surreal. It was very surreal to be like, I'm drawing breath right now, and you know, this is something that exists. I don't know. Yeah, like it's kind of hard to explain, but those are the kind of talks that I've been having, and I'm like, okay. At some point, I had to think, if God really wanted me gone, He could have taken me a long time ago. He knows how much I would much rather be with Him. He knows that better than anyone. You know, He knows that of us better than anyone. And so I'm like, but there must be some reason why He has me here. Now rewind to what I was saying about what difference does it make if I'm here or not? No one's listening to me anyway. God let me know that literally just my presence was an impact. The fact that I'm here, like that I could physically occupy a space next to a person that was lost, my presence, because of Him in me, because of Him in us, my presence, it's like my presence speaks, just being there. And so I'm like, wow. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, if simply just being there has power, then how much more power could I bring forth as far as His power in us? How much more of His power could be worked in us if we actually made every single effort to obey Him and to do what He says? You know what I mean? Like, just, and here's the other thing that I've thought about, just about life, is I came to the realization recently, and this is kind of obvious, I know, but like when you really think about it, it is so powerful. It's so powerful. I realized that one action can literally change the entire world. One action can affect another person, which affects another person, which affects another person. And it's like a chain reaction just because of one action, whether it's good or bad. For example, if somebody dies, let's say that someone does something dangerous and then they die, that action, it like causes a chain reaction for like the people who love them and the people who love those people, and like the entire world, history is shifted by our actions. And so I'm like, with that in mind, if we serve the Lord of all creation, just imagine that impact if you used your actions to love your neighbor, or to, with your words, to speak love, and to speak the truth too. Just imagine that chain reaction, you know, and that chain reaction would echo into eternity. This is the gift, this is the opportunity that we have in this world simply by being alive. And that's what's been on my mind lately. I've had to restart the video a few times, sorry about that, but anyway, that's the opportunity and gift that we have in being alive. Like there is the relationship that you have with God in this walk, in this life, and then there's the relationship that you have with people in this walk. And eternity is going to be all about your relationship with God, and whatever relationship that you have with Him down here, that's going to continue into eternity. And whatever all the things that he gave us that can bless another person. Like, remember the talents in that parable? All those talents and everything that those talents produce, we will be actively using those talents even into eternity. So, as far as your walk with God, this life is an opportunity to make him happy. And for those that love the Lord, for those that, like, the Lord is everything to them, like you and me, like the bride, then I'm just like, Lord, for as long as I'm alive, I just want you to be happy. And like, oh my gosh. This is something else that I think about. That just means so much to me. To like the depth of my core. It means so much to me. Is that when I see him, I want him to be able to say that I did what he wanted me to do. Because it makes no sense to be here on the earth right now with the mission that he gave us, which is pretty clear. It's like, love your neighbor, like love the Lord with all your strength, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. And then, forgive those who persecute you. Pray for those, that are against you and all this stuff. It doesn't make sense to have a life down here, to have the option to choose to obey or to disobey, and to not live the life in obedience to God. That doesn't make any sense. When that, in a way, to me, I feel like, I don't, like, forgive me if this is, like, coming out wrong, but, like, Lord, please give me the words in Jesus' name. I would feel like, if he had me live this life down here, and then my life ended, and I didn't actually walk with him, and I didn't actually obey him and put to use the commands and the fruits of the Spirit that he gave me, I would feel like I literally just wasted his time. Like, he could have just, like, had somebody else do it, you know what I mean? Like, but here I am. He gave us the Great Commission, he gave us the things that he did, and so when I see him, I want him to be happy. Because I say, Lord, there's a lot of things in this world that is an offense to you, and that's abhorrent, and that's painful to you, because it's like he always intended for all of creation, he always intended good. You know what I mean? Like, he always had our best interest in mind, and then the fall happened, and then sin entered the world, and now there's all this death, and there's destruction, and there is just his sheep going astray. Imagine how that makes him feel. Like, these are souls that mattered enough to him that he went to the cross. And I say, Lord, this is what you have to see all the time. The disobedience, like, it's not just, like, for the people that disobey, like, it's not just about, you're making God mad at you. It's about you're literally choosing death, and he's watching you do that, because he's not going to get in the way of your free will. When we pray for people, he hears us and he pursues them, but at the same time, he leaves enough room for them to choose what they want to do. And for most people right now, as we're heading into the worst time that the earth has ever seen, people are perishing. And that does not make him happy. And it doesn't make us happy. So, I'm just like, Lord, even if they're like, what, I know I'm gonna make up a number, but compared to like the whole world's population, even if there are only like 700 people down here that are actually giving him something pleasant to look at as he watches the people of the earth, I'm like, let me be among those 700 people. It's a shame that it's not all of us, but let me be among those 700 people. I just say, Lord, there's a lot of darkness down here, and there's a lot of bad stuff that he has to look at, and he does, because he sees everything. So I'm like, Lord, I at least want my life to be something pleasant for you to look at. So there goes the impact of this life as far as he goes, and then the impact of this life as far as like your neighbor goes. Sorry about that. That made a lot of noise. I'm recording, so I can't hear right now. Anyway, this life and the impact of this life as far as your neighbor goes, like that, our relationship with other people and how we treat other people based on what he's taught us, that's like the best opportunity to show him, like, Lord, this is what you gave me, this is what I'm going to do with it. And just watching how people that you reach out to, how they come to life. You know what I mean? I have actually had people that aren't even believers, but that they enjoy talking to me about Jesus, though. They enjoy that. And I'm like, Lord, even if they're not straight up saying, oh yeah, like, you know, I believe in Jesus and, you know, this and that all day, I'm about to go get baptized today. I'm like, Lord, it's good enough that I can just at least talk about you with these people. And so I thank him for that. Sorry, the video's shaking. Anyway, so I thank him for that. And I take it, I plant that seed, and then I just keep loving people and just realizing the power of, and the power of our presence here. It just makes me feel like kind of, what's the word for it? It's like, makes me super sober-minded. It's almost alarming where it's like, oh my goodness, like literally by my own choice, I could cause a horrible chain reaction in the world, or I could cause a positive one. You cause a horrible one by going your own way, hurting people, you know, like hurting yourself, hurting people, and not caring. Or you can cause a positive chain reaction by doing what God told us to do, which is why he told us to do it, because he knew that people would be saved, that we could help people get saved and show people how attractive the light is, and how attractive his ways are, and how attractive it is when you love your neighbor, and how attractive it is the peace that we have that people in the world don't have. Like, look at the news. Like, people are just kind of like, oh my gosh, our world is falling apart. And it is falling apart because it has to, because, you know, God also is going to show the world how unattractive evil is. This is what happens, like when you rob your neighbor. This is what happens when you fornicate, when you commit adultery. This is what happens. And so having us also be here, it shows the world, it's like, okay, look, this is the mess that you're dealing with because of the sin that you love so much, and this is what God wants to extend to you: life, love, salvation, being full, like your soul being full, knowing your worth, like understanding what Jesus did on the cross, and just like all this stuff. And I'm just like, these are the thoughts that I've had in my head for the past, I don't even know how long. But yeah, I said, what is a life worth? Like, what can I do with a life to make it meaningful? I think I just listed like 5,000 reasons. Like, I'm only slightly exaggerating. But yeah, what is a life worth? Like, I count it an honor that God allows me this service while in the flesh. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you. And God bless you. Bye.